Jack Rivers was going insane. He knew it, accepted it, even welcomed it sometimes. Insanity seemed better than the crushing loneliness that filled every corner of the abandoned outpost. 93 days alone. 93 days since the evacuation ships left Kepler 442b. 93 days of talking to himself just to hear a human voice. Tonight, Jack sat at his metal desk, playing cards against nobody. He laid down a queen. "Beat that," he said to the empty chair across from him. Silence answered. "That's what I thought," Jack muttered, collecting his winning hand. The outpost creaked around him, settling into the cold night. Outside the reinforced windows, the colony looked like a photograph of the apocalypse. Streetlights still glowing over empty roads, houses with dinners left rotting on tables, a playground where swings moved in the wind with no children to push them. 4,000 people lived here once. Now one. Jack stood and paced. 5 steps to the wall. Turn 5 steps back. He'd worn a path in the floor doing this. A groove in the metal where his boots hit the same spot 1,000 times. His brother Tom used to say Jack would pace a hole through a starship hull if left alone long enough. Tom was dead now. Mars Colony massacre, 6 months ago. The Zephyrons came without warning. No mercy, no prisoners, just death. Jack stopped at Tom's photo on the wall. "You were right, brother," he said softly. "I'm pacing a hole through the floor. Probably fall through to the basement soon." The photo smiled back, frozen in better times. Jack turned away, choking on grief that never got easier. He checked the security monitors. Habit now every 15 minutes. Same empty streets. Same abandoned colony. Same nothing, nothing, nothing. His hand moved to shut off the screens. Then he saw it. Movement. Just a flicker at the edge of camera 7. Jack's heart stopped. His finger jabbed the replay button. Rewinding 30 seconds. There, something small darted between buildings. Too fast to identify. Gone in a blink. Coyote, Jack told himself, or a stray dog, nothing else. But Kepler 442b had no native predators, and all colonist pets were evacuated. Jack switched to thermal imaging. Nothing. Infrared, nothing. Motion sensors, negative. "Great," he muttered. "Now I'm seeing ghosts." He stood to make coffee, needing something to do with his shaking hands. That's when he heard it. Tap, 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 soft, rhythmic, coming from the main door. Jack froze. Coffee grounds spilled across the counter. Forgotten. Tap, tap, tap. Not the wind. Wind didn't knock with pattern, with purpose. His hand found his plasma pistol. Muscle memory from too many combat drops. He moved toward the door, silent, controlled, every sense screaming danger. Tap, tap, tap. Pause. Tap, tap, tap. More desperate now, more urgent. Jack checked the external cameras again. The entrance was empty, completely empty. No heat signature, no movement, no biological readings. Yet the knocking continued. Impossible. His rational mind said malfunction. Sensor glitch. Acoustic echo from the ventilation system. But something deeper, something primal, said otherwise. The knocking stopped. Total silence pressed against Jack's eardrums like water pressure. He waited, counting seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, nothing. 10, 11, 12, still nothing. Definitely losing it. Jack whispered. Then he heard a new sound whimper, soft, broken, barely audible through the reinforced door. A sound of pure despair. Every regulation said stay inside. Never open doors during lockdown. Never compromise security. The Zephyrons were tricky. They used decoys. They laid traps. They killed anyone stupid enough to break protocol. Jack's brother died because someone opened the wrong door at Mars Colony. His hand reached for the lock anyway. "This is the dumbest thing you've ever done," he told himself. The lock beeped, recognizing his fingerprint. Tom would call you an idiot. The door's seal hissed, releasing pressure. Command would court-martial you for this. The heavy barrier began to slide open. "You're going to die." Cold night air rushed in. Jack raised his weapon, finger on trigger, ready for anything. The door opened fully. Jack's eyes scanned the empty courtyard. Weapon tracking left, right, checking corners. Nothing. See? Just the wind. Just your broken mind playing. Movement at his feet. Jack looked down. His weapon clattered to the ground. A tiny creature huddled against the doorframe, collapsed like a broken doll. Green skin stretched over visible bones. Enormous ears drooped against a skull-like head, wearing rags that might have been clothes once. In trembling hands, the creature held a sign made from cardboard, words written in shaky letters that broke Jack's heart. Please. Just one meal. Jack couldn't breathe. This was a Zephlon, a child, the enemy that murdered his brother. But those eyes, God, those eyes, they opened slowly, struggling to focus. Too large for the tiny face, filled with pain that no child should know. Those eyes found Jack, and instead of fear, instead of hatred, they showed hope. Desperate, dying hope. The small chest heaved once, twice, then went still. The cardboard sign slipped from lifeless fingers. Jack stood paralyzed, mind screaming. Enemy, child, killer, innocent, revenge, mercy. The creature's lips moved, barely a whisper. Please. Then nothing. Jack's hands moved before his brain could stop them. He dropped to his knees, reached out, and caught the tiny body as it fell. Jack's hands moved before his brain could stop them. He dropped his weapon and caught the tiny body before it hit the cold ground. The alien child weighed almost nothing, like holding a bundle of sticks wrapped in cloth. Jack had carried supply crates heavier than this. No, 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 Jack whispered, carrying the child inside quickly. He glanced at the empty streets. Making sure no surveillance drones saw him, the door hissed shut behind them, sealing him inside with his impossible choice. He laid the small creature on his bunk. The child's breathing was shallow, rapid, like a dying bird. Up close, Jack could see every rib through the thin green skin. The pointed ears drooped lifelessly. Those oversized eyes remained closed. Jack's medical training kicked in automatically. Check airways, check pulse, check for injuries. The child's pulse was fast but weak. Severe malnutrition, probably dehydration too. No visible wounds, just starvation. He grabbed his emergency medical kit and a bottle of water. His hands shook as he opened it. Part of him still couldn't believe what he was doing. Helping a Zephlon, saving the enemy, committing treason. The image of his brother flashed through his mind. Tom's last message from Mars Colony. The explosions in the background, the screams. Then nothing, just silence and a death notification 3 days later. I should let you die, Jack said aloud to the unconscious child. You're one of them. One of the monsters who took everything from me. But those words felt hollow. This wasn't a monster. This was a child. Jack carefully lifted the small head and brought water to the dry, cracked lips. Come on, little one, just a sip, he murmured. Pressing the bottle gently, the child's throat moved. A tiny swallow, then another. The enormous eyes flickered open for a moment, unfocused and confused, then closed again. Progress. Jack set the water aside and opened a ration pack. He broke off small pieces of nutrition bar, soft enough for a starving stomach. He'd seen starvation before, on the outer colonies. You couldn't give too much food too fast. The body would reject it. He placed a tiny piece in the child's mouth. The reaction was immediate. Those big eyes snapped open wide. The child chewed slowly, carefully, as if expecting the food to vanish like a dream. Small green hands grabbed Jack's wrist, not aggressively, but desperately, afraid he would take the food away. It's okay, Jack said softly. You can have more. I'm not going to hurt you. The child stared at him with those impossibly large eyes, fear and hope mixed together, fighting with each other. Jack offered another piece. The small mouth opened like a baby bird, trusting him. They sat like that for 20 minutes. Jack feeding small portions, the child eating with desperate gratitude. Slowly, some color returned to the green cheeks. The breathing became more steady. Then the child did something that broke Jack's heart completely. Those tiny hands reached up and touched Jack's face gently. Exploring, the small fingers traced his human features with wonder. Then the child smiled, just a small, weak smile, but genuine. Jack felt tears burning his eyes. What happened to you? He whispered. Where's your family? The child didn't understand English yet, but seemed to understand the gentle tone. Those small green hands made gestures, pointing to the mouth, then to the stomach. The universal language of hunger. Jack nodded. I know, kid. I know you're hungry. We'll fix that. Suddenly, his military communicator beeped loudly. Both of them jumped. The screen flashed. Incoming call. Command center. Jack's blood turned to ice. He had 15 seconds to answer before they sent a patrol. Standard protocol during wartime lockdown. The child watched him with those trusting eyes, not understanding the danger. If command found out, they'd execute them both. The communicator beeped again, more insistent. 10 seconds. Jack looked at the child, then at the communicator. His finger hovered over the answer button. What would he say? Jack pressed the answer button with a steady hand he didn't feel. Commander Morrison's weathered face filled the screen. His gray eyes were sharp. Suspicious, always suspicious. Rivers, your biometric readings spiked 10 minutes ago. Heart rate elevated. Stress hormones off the chart. Explain. Behind Jack, the alien child sat motionless on the bunk. Those huge eyes watched everything with frightening intelligence. Just a nightmare, sir. Jack lied smoothly. He'd learned to lie during the war. Everyone did. Dreamed about Mars colony again. About Tom. Morrison's expression softened slightly. Everyone knew about Jack's brother. Understandable soldier. But we can't have our depot guards having breakdowns. You need to stay sharp. I'm fine, sir. Just tired of talking to myself. Morrison nodded. 2 more months, Rivers. Then we rotate you out. Can you hold it together that long? Yes, sir. Good. Morrison out. The screen went black. Jack released a breath he didn't know he was holding. His hands trembled as he set down the communicator. That was too close, way too close. He turned back to the child. You almost got us both killed, little one. The child tilted its head, confused but attentive. Those pointed ears perked forward like a curious animal. Over the next 3 days, something remarkable happened. The child grew stronger, not just physically, though the color returned to that green skin and the ribs became less visible, but mentally stronger too, more alert, more present. Jack discovered the child was incredibly smart. On day 2, the child pointed at objects and Jack named them: table, chair, door, food. By evening, the child repeated every word perfectly, with only a slight accent. On day 3, the child began forming simple sentences. Jack good, food good. Thank you. Jack learned the child's name through pictures drawn in the dust on the floor. The small green finger traced letters carefully. Z-I-M, Zim. Jack said aloud. Your name is Zim. The child's face lit up with joy. Those big eyes sparkled. Zim, yes, Zim. But the next picture Zim drew made Jack's stomach twist. It showed stick figures, a family, 2 tall Zephlons and 3 small ones, including Zim. They were holding hands, smiling in the simple drawing. Then Zim drew another picture beside it, the same family, but now large Zephlon soldiers with weapons surrounded them. The parents were being dragged away, the other children too. Only tiny Zim remained, hiding behind a rock. Jack knelt beside the child. They took your family, Zim nodded slowly. Those eyes filled with tears that didn't fall. Soldiers take, Zim hide, family gone. Jack's hatred wavered, crumbled, fell apart. This war wasn't what he thought. The Zephlons weren't a unified enemy. They had families, children, people who suffered too. I'm sorry, Zim, Jack whispered. I'm so sorry. That evening, Zim surprised him again. The child had been watching Jack work, organizing supplies, checking inventory. Now Zim started helping, sorting small items by size, stacking boxes neatly. Learning the depot's system, Jack watched in amazement as Zim created an improved organization chart. Drawing it on paper, the child's method was actually better than the military standard protocol. You're brilliant, Jack said, genuine admiration in his voice. Zim beamed with pride. On day 4, everything changed. Zim was drawing again. But this time the pictures were different, more detailed, more purposeful. Jack watched as Zim created a complex map. It showed Zephlon military positions, supply routes, defensive installations. But there was something else in the center of the map. Zim drew a large square with bars. Inside were hundreds of tiny stick figures. Zephlons, families, children. What is this? Jack asked, his heart racing. Zim's small finger tapped the drawing. Prison, many Zephlon, no want fight. Soldiers lock away. Families lock away. Jack stared at the map, his mind reeling. A prison camp. The Zeflon military was imprisoning their own people, the ones who refused to fight. This changed everything. Suddenly, the outpost alarms screamed to life. Red lights flashed, sirens wailed. The automated voice echoed through the halls. Warning, enemy vessels detected, human patrol inbound. Emergency protocols activated. Jack had 60 seconds. Zim looked at him with terrified eyes. Hide, Jack said urgently, grabbing Zim's small hand. You have to hide right now. Part 4. The Discovery, 600 words. Jack's mind raced through options in milliseconds. The storage lockers were too obvious. Military patrols checked those first. The ventilation shafts were too small, even for Zim. The bathroom had nowhere to hide. Then he remembered. Behind the water filtration unit in the maintenance closet, there was a narrow gap, barely visible. A design flaw in the outpost construction that created a pocket space. Come on, Jack whispered urgently, pulling Zim toward the closet. The child moved silently, those big eyes wide with fear but trusting. Jack shoved aside cleaning supplies and yanked open the filtration panel. The gap behind it was dark, cramped, uncomfortable. Get in. Stay absolutely silent, no matter what you hear, Jack said, lifting Zim into the space. Jack, Zim whispered, small green hand gripping his shirt. Scared. I know, buddy, me too, but I won't let them hurt you. I promise. Zim nodded and crawled into the darkness. Jack replaced the panel just as boots thundered on the metal stairs outside. He barely had time to kick the cleaning supplies back into place before his door burst open. Lieutenant Sarah Chun entered first, weapon raised. Her dark eyes scanned the room like a predator. 3 soldiers followed, forming a defensive perimeter. Jack recognized the tactics. They suspected something. Lieutenant, Jack said calmly, hands visible, non-threatening. What's the situation? Cut the act, Rivers, Chun snapped. Her weapon never wavered from his chest. Thermal scans detected 2 heat signatures in this outpost 15 minutes ago. You want to explain that? Jack's blood turned to ice, but his face remained neutral. Years of military training took over. 2 signatures, he frowned, genuinely confused. That's impossible. I'm alone here. Thermal doesn't lie. Chun moved closer, studying his face. Where are you hiding them? One of the soldiers began searching the bedroom, tearing through drawers, checking under the bunk. Another moved toward the kitchen area. The 3rd soldier walked straight toward the maintenance closet. Jack's heart hammered, but he forced himself to stay still. Any reaction would confirm their suspicions. The soldier's hand reached for the closet door. Time slowed down. Jack made a split-second decision. He walked casually to the storage area on the opposite side of the room. You know what, Lieutenant? I did find something weird yesterday. Chun's attention snapped to him. What? Old Zeflon equipment in the storage bay. Jack opened the container, revealing damaged enemy tech he'd collected weeks ago. Been meaning to report it, but honestly, I thought it was just debris. The soldier at the closet paused, looking back at Chun. Could be a spy drone. Jack continued, picking up a small device. Maybe still transmitting heat signatures, making your scans go crazy. Chun's eyes narrowed. She wasn't stupid, but it was plausible. Check it, she ordered. 2 soldiers moved to examine the Zeflon equipment. The 3rd soldier finally stepped away from the closet. Jack breathed slowly, carefully. Don't show relief. Don't show anything. Chun walked around the outpost, her boots clicking on the metal floor. She stopped at Jack's desk. At the drawing Zim had made, Jack's stomach dropped. You draw in pictures now, Rivers. Chun picked up one of Zim's sketches. Stick figures. Really, boredom does strange things, Jack shrugged. 3 months alone. I'm going a little crazy. Chun stared at him for a long moment, reading him, analyzing every micro-expression. You seem different, Captain, she said quietly. Something's changed. Jack met her eyes directly. Just tired of being alone, Lieutenant. Tired of this war. Tired of watching good people die for nothing. That last part was completely true. Chun's expression flickered. Something passed behind her eyes. Understanding maybe, or sympathy. She set down the drawing. We're all tired. Rivers. Thermal scan could have been a malfunction. One soldier reported, "This Zeflon tech is damaged but still active. Might be causing false readings." Chun nodded slowly, still watching Jack. "2 more months," she said finally. "Then you're out of here. Try not to lose your mind before then." "Yes, ma'am." Chun turned to leave, her team following. At the door, she paused. "Rivers," she called back. "Yeah, if you need to talk, use the come. Don't suffer alone." Then they were gone. Jack waited until their transport lifted off, until the sounds faded completely. Only then did he rush to the closet. He tore open the panel. Zim sat curled in the darkness, shaking, tears streaming down green cheeks. "It's okay." Jack lifted the child out gently. "They're gone. You're safe." Zim clung to him, small body trembling. That night, something changed between them. After Jack gave Zim dinner, the child did something unexpected. Zim picked up half the food and pushed it toward Jack. "You eat," Zim said softly. "Share." Jack stared at the offered food. This starving child was sharing rations. His last walls crumbled. "Thank you." "Sim." They ate together in comfortable silence. Later, as Zim slept, Jack made a decision. He couldn't hide Zim forever. He needed to do something bigger, something that could end this war. Zim's map still lay on the desk. The prison camp sketch, the evidence. Jack pulled up his secure terminal. He began uploading Zim's intelligence to the underground resistance network. Halfway through the upload, his screen flashed red. "Transmission intercepted. Tracing location now. Estimated time to breach, 10 minutes. Jack's world collapsed. They were coming, and this time, there would be no talking his way out. Jack stared at the red warning flashing on his screen like a death sentence. 10 minutes. He'd uploaded 40% of Zim's intelligence before the security AI caught him. Now both Earth Defense Force and Zeflon military would trace the signal. Both sides would want him dead. His training screamed at him. Destroy evidence. Run alone. Survive. One person could disappear into the abandoned colony. Hide in the underground tunnels. Wait for extraction. He'd done it before on other missions. But that was before Zim. Jack looked at the child sleeping peacefully on the bunk, curled up like a kitten. Those pointed ears twitched slightly, dreaming. He could leave right now. Zim would sleep for hours. Never know Jack abandoned him. Jack's hand moved toward his emergency pack, then stopped. On the desk lay Zim's drawings. The family being torn apart, the prison camps, the shared meal from earlier tonight. "Damn it," Jack whispered. He grabbed the emergency supplies and ran to wake Zim. "Hey buddy, wake up." Jack shook the small shoulder gently. "We have to go. Right now." Zim's eyes opened, instantly alert. War had taught the child to wake ready for danger. "Soldiers coming?" Zim asked. "Worse, everyone's coming." Jack pulled a small jacket over Zim's thin frame. "Can you run?" Zim nodded seriously. "Zim fast." They had 7 minutes. Jack slung his pack over his shoulders and lifted Zim onto his back. The child weighed so little, like carrying a backpack full of air. "Hold on tight. Don't let go no matter what happens." Small green arms wrapped around Jack's neck. "Zim, trust Jack." Those 3 words hit harder than any bullet. Jack ran. He knew every corridor of this outpost, every maintenance shaft, every hidden exit. He'd studied them obsessively during 3 months of isolation. Behind them, the outpost erupted with activity. Ships roared overhead. Searchlights cut through the darkness. Soldiers shouted coordinates into radios. Jack dropped through an access hatch into the underground maintenance tunnels. His boots splashed in stagnant water. Zim clung tighter, silent and brave. They ran through darkness, Jack's helmet light bouncing off wet walls. Above them, explosions rocked the outpost. They were destroying evidence, making sure nothing survived. "Jack," Zim whispered, "where we go?" Good question. Jack had one option left, one desperate, probably suicidal option. The old planetary communications tower. It stood 2 kilometers outside the colony, abandoned for years, but Jack had secretly repaired it during lonely nights. Just in case, just for emergencies. This definitely qualified. They emerged from the tunnels into the ruined colony streets. Buildings stood like broken teeth against the night sky. Homes where families once laughed now stood empty and dark. Jack ran between shadows, avoiding searchlight sweeps. Zim never made a sound, never complained, just held on with complete trust. They reached the tower as aircraft circled closer. Jack kicked open the rusted door and climbed the metal stairs. His legs burned, his lungs screamed. Zim's weight felt like nothing and everything. At the top, Jack set Zim down and frantically activated the old broadcasting equipment. "What you do?" Zim asked, watching with curious eyes. "Something crazy." Jack positioned the camera. "Something that might save us, or get us killed faster." The equipment hummed to life, ancient but functional. Jack had one chance. If he could broadcast Zim's story to both human and Zeflon networks simultaneously, show the galaxy that children were suffering on both sides, maybe someone would listen, maybe someone would care. He knelt beside Zim. "I need you to be very brave. Can you do that?" Zim nodded. "Always brave." Jack pressed record. The camera's red light blinked on. "My name is Captain Jack Rivers, Earth Defense Force," he began, his voice steady despite everything. "And I want to tell you about my friend." He gestured to Zim. The small alien child looked at the camera with those impossibly large eyes. Jack told everything. The knock on the door 3 days ago. The starving child with a cardboard sign. The shared meals. The drawing showing families torn apart. He held up Zim's map, showing the prison camps. "Both sides are lying to us," Jack said, emotion cracking his voice. "Both sides are using us. The real enemy isn't Zeflon or human. It's the people who profit from our hatred." Zim sat quietly beside him, a small green figure representing millions of innocent lives. The broadcast went live across every network. On Earth, families watched in shock. On Zeflon worlds, parents saw Zim's face and recognized their own children. Military command centers on both sides scrambled to shut down the transmission. But it was too late. The truth was out. Below the tower, vehicles surrounded the base. Lieutenant Chun's voice boomed through a loudspeaker. "Jack Rivers, you are under arrest for treason. Surrender immediately. There is no escape." Jack looked at Zim. The child looked back, unafraid. "We did good thing," Zim said softly. "Yeah, kid, we did." Jack held Zim close as soldiers aimed weapons at them. This was it, the end. Then something impossible happened. The night sky lit up with new arrivals, Zeflon ships, dozens of them. But they weren't attacking. Jack's radio crackled to life. A Zeflon voice spoke in broken English. "We saw child. We saw truth. We want peace." Jack's heart stopped. Below, Chun's soldiers hesitated, weapons still raised. The Zeflon ships hovered, waiting. Everyone watched everyone else. One wrong move would restart the war. One right move might end it. Chun stepped forward. Her weapon aimed directly at Jack's chest. The whole galaxy held its breath. Commander Chun stood in the searchlight beam, her weapon steady, her face unreadable. Above, 30 Zeflon resistance ships hung in the air like floating tombstones. Their weapons were powered down, a gesture of peace or a clever trap. Jack held Zim tighter. The child's small heart beat rapidly against his chest. "Lieutenant," Jack called down, his voice carrying across the silent battlefield. "Before you shoot, just listen. You've committed treason, Rivers," Chun shouted back, but her weapon wavered slightly. "You've betrayed your species, your brother's memory." "My brother died hating Zeflons," Jack replied. Something broke in his voice. "He died thinking they were monsters. But what if he was wrong? What if we're all wrong?" Chun's finger rested on the trigger. The Zeflon ships remained motionless. Soldiers on both sides waited for someone to make the first move. "Look at Zim," Jack continued, lifting the small child higher so everyone could see. "Really look, this is what we're fighting. A starving kid who lost everything, just like human children lost everything. Just like your nephew on Europa Station, Sarah." Chun flinched at the mention of her family. "They told us Zeflons have no families, no feelings, no souls." Jack's voice grew stronger. "But Zim draws pictures of parents, shares food when starving, learns our language in days, trusts when trust should be impossible." Zim watched Chen with those enormous eyes. No fear, just curiosity and hope. Something shifted in Chen's expression. Her weapon lowered, just an inch. But enough. How do we know this isn't manipulation? She asked, doubt creeping into her voice. How do we know those ships won't attack the moment we stand down? The Zephlon radio crackled again. This time, a different voice, older, wiser, speaking better English. I am Elder Korzeth of the Zephlon Liberation Front, the voice said. We are prisoners who escaped because of the humans' broadcast. Our families are still in camps. Our children starve like young Zim. We do not wish to fight. We wish to end those who profit from war. A holographic image appeared above the Zephlon lead ship. It showed the prison camps Zim had drawn, but in horrifying detail. Thousands of Zephlons behind energy barriers, families separated, children crying, human soldiers gasped. These weren't propaganda images. They were real. Our military leaders lied to us, Korzeth continued. They said humans were destroying our worlds, but it was our own leaders, creating enemies to maintain power, just as your leaders did the same. Chun lowered her weapon completely. Her soldiers looked at each other, confused, uncertain. The clear lines of war had become blurry. What are you proposing? Chun asked carefully. An alliance, Korzeth replied, between humans and free Zephlons, to stop the real enemies, the warmongers on both sides who sacrifice our children for profit. Silence fell over the battlefield. Jack climbed down the tower slowly, Zim still in his arms. He walked through the ring of soldiers. None of them stopped him. He stood face to face with Lieutenant Chun. Sarah, he said quietly, using her first name. I know you're tired. We're all tired. Let's stop being tired and start being human. Chun stared at him for a long moment. Then she did something that changed history. She holstered her weapon and extended her hand to Jack. You're either the bravest man I know or the craziest, she said. Probably both. Jack shook her hand. Chun looked up at the Zephlon ships, then at her own soldiers. Stand down, she ordered. All units, weapons safe. We're opening diplomatic channels. Her second-in-command protested. Ma'am, this violates direct orders from. I know what it violates. Chun cut him off. But I'm choosing to see what Captain Rivers sees. If I'm wrong, court-martial me. If I'm right, we save billions of lives. The Zephlon ships descended slowly. Carefully, landing gear extended. Human soldiers raised weapons instinctively. Hold your fire, Chun commanded. Everyone stay calm. The first Zephlon ship touched down 50 meters away. A ramp extended. An elderly Zephlon emerged. Korzeth, wearing simple robes instead of military armor. He walked forward alone, unarmed, vulnerable. Chun walked to meet him. Equally unarmed. They met in the middle. Two enemies, two warriors, two people tired of death. Korzeth looked at Zim in Jack's arms. The child is well, he observed. Thanks to Jack, Chun replied. Then Jack has done what armies could not, Korzeth said. He has built a bridge where walls stood. Zim squirmed in Jack's arms. Wanting down, Jack set the child on the ground. Zim walked forward, small feet padding across the dirt. The child stood between Chun and Korzeth, between human and Zephlon, between war and peace. Zim held up both small hands, offering one to each of them. Chun took the left hand, Korzeth took the right. And in that moment, everything changed. News of the ceasefire spread across both empires within hours. Not all welcomed it. Extremists on both sides screamed betrayal, but millions more cried with relief. The war didn't end overnight, but it began to end. Negotiations started, carefully, cautiously. Prison camps were exposed. War criminals identified on both sides. Jack and Zim testified at the historic peace summit 6 months later. The small human captain and the small Zephlon child, proving that compassion was stronger than hatred. Years passed. Jack stood in the crowd at the Interspecies Academy, watching the graduation ceremony. Zim walked across the stage, no longer the starving child from that desperate night, now a confident young diplomat, wearing ceremonial robes representing both species. After the ceremony, Zim found Jack in the crowd. The young Zephlon carried a wrapped package. For you, Zim said in perfect English. All traces of accent gone, Jack unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a framed photograph. That first night, Jack feeding soup to a terrified alien child. Chun had taken it secretly, given it to Zim years later. "You saved me," Zim said, voice thick with emotion. Jack pulled Zim into a hug. "No, Zim," he whispered, tears streaming freely. "You saved all of us. You reminded us what we were fighting for, and showed us we were fighting the wrong enemy." Around them, humans and Zephlons mingled freely. Children of both species played together, former enemies now friends. All because one soldier chose mercy, one child chose trust, and together they chose peace.